Hi guys, bienvenidos a Todo en Vida podcast. My name is Ashley. I am the host of Todo en Vida. I'm also the owner to Self Care by Ash LLC, the owner of Self Care Studios. And today's topic, don't worry, in case you guys see the title, I'm going to go ahead and save the, let's not get political comments. I'm not going to get political today, guys. I'm going to just speak from a place of the reality of what a lot of us are facing. As first generation American, I'm going to speak my truth. And again, speak for the people that don't have a platform, because I'll be very honest with you guys. I was talking to my producer about how I didn't ask for this platform. And he, in the best way corrected me and said, not intentionally, but you did start this podcast with hopes of conveying a message. And with that came inspiration. With that, the platform came, it grew, and eventually the exposure on social media started to happen. So let's just cut it for what it is and just dive straight into it. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insight on how this is personally affecting me, just so that you guys know that I'm speaking from a place of being relatable and speaking from a place of knowing the fear and the struggle and most importantly, the fear that everybody's living right now. This is a topic that's very sensitive, and I feel like I might not be the person who is adequate enough to speak on politics. But again, I'm not going to get political today. So I own my wax business. I'm an esthetician. I'm a licensed esthetician. I'm a Brazilian wax specialist, and I started back in 2021. But I started it with the reality of knowing that with me being first generation American, I would look at my father who raised me and the reality of there's no 401k here. There's no retirement plan. There's no social security. There's no PTO. There's no sick days. There's no eventually he's going to retire and not have to worry about his expenses, right? I knew that from a very young age. I seen it, I lived it. And when I got to be at an age where I could do something about it, I hit the ground running. A lot of people see the success and think that it is something that I crave the success, and I crave the money, and I crave the financial freedom. And it's yes, I crave the financial freedom. But when I prayed for the success of my business, while I'm very grateful for the social media platforms that I've gained, I never asked to blow up on TikTok or social media. I didn't ask for that. I'm going to be honest with you. While that's been a huge blessing, that all came second. But that's the reality of why I started my business, because I knew that there was none of that. And also, too, not to bash any of my siblings, but I knew that if something were to happen, who the responsibility falls on is me. That's always been my role. That's always been the blessing and curse that I've carried with me. But like it says, and by it, I mean, the Bible, honor your father and mother. And that's just what my dad always instilled that in me growing up, right? I've also talked about on this podcast about the deportation case that my father went ahead and faced back when I was in 8th grade. And I think that I've done a really good job of experiencing things in life that I kind of just tuck away, because I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've come to be past it, I guess you could say. But with everything that's going on with the ICE raids and this administration, it has brought back all that fear. Not because my dad's not in the clear, just want to put that out there, because with putting my life on social media and with me being vulnerable, there's also miserable people out there. But I'm also not going to silence myself. And I know that my dad wouldn't want me to silence myself either, for the people that have lived our reality. So this has brought back fear because it's something that I'm living. I have to work not for pleasure or comfort. I work for survival. And the reality of it is that I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. And 1 week, I can make an X amount. The next week, it can be less. But even during the time that I'm working, I have clients coming in and I'm hearing about it all day, every day. Oh, I work at, this university, and our Latinx building full with first generation Americans or Mexican Americans, or, whatever the other half is, or like, and by half, I mean their ethnicity, our buildings are empty right now. Immigration has came on campus. Let's be honest, there's no proper protocol or procedure to come up to someone and identify their citizenship. It's more just like racial profiling at this point. And on top of that, it's gone down to, I work at such and such medical facility or hospital, and immigration has came in to ask for the status of, and I know people's first argument would be, well, that's why there's HIPAA. That's why there's HIPAA. That isn't even something that like is being followed anymore. I'm actively hearing this from real life people every day. So as much as I would love, and not really, but as much as I would love to be like the rest of the sheep of this world and be oblivious and stay in my privilege of like, I own a business and don't worry, my dad got papers. My mom's good and I got a business and it's thriving and I'm making money and I'm in the clear. I'm good. I can't disregard or ignore the fear that I once lived or the reality that I once lived. It just doesn't sit right in me. And if I have a platform, excuse me, but I'm going to speak on it. So that's where I'm at today. I feel like I have to be able to speak for the generation of children. I get it. I'm an adult now, but I'm somebody's child, I'm somebody's daughter. I'm somebody's like sister and all that stuff. And I just feel like I have to be able to speak for the sacrifices that were made for me to be able to be here and have this platform. And to be honest, if it wasn't for those sacrifices, then I wouldn't have any of this right now. And I was taught to do things right. And I was taught to chase everything that you could out of life, because we only have one life to live. And the opportunities that I have from being born in this country and having a business and being able to speak on this platform is one that I don't want to take lightly. So that's why I'm speaking on it today. And I don't want to stay in my privilege. The reality of it is that a lot of people are living in fear, having to follow their parents to work, having to track down the location of their parents because, they've seen immigration agents on this and this street, and they're looking at their parents' location. Dad, get out of there. And while they're telling their parents, Dad, go home. Mija, I can't. I have to work. That's a very sad reality that a lot of people are living. Or for the people that are, yes, born here and, don't have to have that worry. There's also so many, like, I know it's very common, right? To where, let's say out of 5 siblings, if you have 5 siblings and all of you guys pull the same weight, what a blessing. But I know that that's not the majority or reality for a lot of people. Maybe 2 pull the weight and 3 just kind of like don't really care. They're oblivious or choose to be ignorant or choose to be careless. And that's my reality, because I've seen my dad's struggles firsthand. I was raised with him. I've got exposed to a lot of things. I want to say like diversity, like struggles of like these struggles of so many different problems and issues that we've had to face. And that's what I mean by diversity. Problems with housing, being able to get a decent job, to pay rent on time, and just the humiliation that has came with not being able to have the same opportunities as people that are born here, because it doesn't allow you to have that financial freedom outside of probably like most immigrants where they created their own business. Why? Because it's the best way for them to be able to make enough, but it's also the hardest way for them to make ends meet, because they have to put back in the business, because if they don't go to work that day, they lost money. There's no PTO, there's no sick days. And what they're making is going right back into survival, because look at the cost of living. So there's no room for a retirement plan. And so what ends up happening is that there's first generation American, children or now adults that are having to feel the fear of the consequence if their parent or loved one was just racially profiled, I would love for somebody to be able to give me the valid argument that there is a proper protocol or procedure to walk up to somebody and check their citizenship status. But let's be so realistic. There's not. If there was one to protect the safety of federal agents, they would have stated that already. Hey, we go through this procedure, we come at them like this, or we approach them like this. But it's not. A lot of times they're racially profiled and then followed by dehumanizing the person on the other end of that. Now, if you do that to me, I'll be honest with you. I look American. I speak perfect English. I'm on the lighter side. Granted, my tattoos, might make me look a little bit like a chola. But outside of that, you could tell, right? Que no tengo how they say, la nopal en la frente, right? So I don't have that issue. So if somebody were to come up to me, a federal agent were to come up to me, I can easily tell you to bleep off, right? Or because I don't have to live in that fear. But for people that are still, they can be citizens. Their immigration status is their citizenship status as well. But because they cannot properly communicate with you and they're racially profiled, next thing you know, they're being taken down to the ground. And out of fear, their first reaction is fight or flight. Now you're resisting. And now I need 3 other people to get on top of you. Right. Let's go into this. They should have done things the right way. I might not know the right way they should have entered, but I know that this is not the right way to do things. This is dehumanizing individuals. This is installing fear in our community and our people, even in citizens, that to the point where they have to carry their paperwork on them. And let's be honest, it's much easier to say, well, that's illegal. That's illegal. Or they should have done things the legal way. It's easier to say that than to say, I'm just racist. like that's a lot. That is a lot more socially acceptable to say than to just flat out say, I'm racist. Because people say like, well, they should have done things the legal way. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, let me speak on that, because I've seen how when my dad tried to do things the legal way, and eventually it came forward for him. He ended up achieving that after being here 20 plus years. Okay, but let's go back to let's do things the legal way. Okay, you're in Mexico. We'll say Cuba, wherever, Venezuela, wherever. You apply for a visa to the U.S. Do you guys know the chances of them actually getting approved for the visa? There's been so many times where, I've very rarely do I hear, my tia got approved for the visa. Majority of the time, they're just rejected. It doesn't get approved. So then what happens? A lot of people that decide to come over and cross over, it's out of survival. So it's either I stay in a country where I'm proud to be from this country, but I don't agree with how administration or just the government is handling things in our economy and our legislative system and just everything overall, right? Which is kind of where I'm speaking of as well. I'm proud to be American, but I'm not proud with my administration, and I'm not proud of the way that our president is portraying us to the rest of the world. Well, I feel like if you're going to be put in a position of leadership, you should be at least a decent human being. And that goes back to where I'm proud to be American, but I'm not proud of our administration as of right now and the way that it's dehumanizing my community, because I'm seeing not only the way that it's affecting the people that I love, it's also affecting people that I grew relationships with, even through my business, having to hear that they're following their parents to work to make sure that they get there safe, having to constantly check their parents' location, having to just overall have that fear of what happens if they get sent back, they don't have anything out there, or people that I know that have been here since a young age, that all they know America more than they do their home country. So it's this is affecting people on so many levels, mentally, emotionally, even down to my business. Granted, right? I'll be transparent. My business is the best that it's ever been right now. But with the weight of, hey, I don't want my dad to go get groceries. Don't worry. Not because he can't pull out, his residency and show it to you guys, but because he's just going to be racially profiled. He's going to be dehumanized. And if something happens, I don't want to see my dad with blood on his shirt because out of fear, he just resisted. And not in the way of like, hey, I don't have something to prove to you that I'm from here, but like, you're not going to grab me like that. You're not going to take me down to the floor like that. You're not going to do that to me. I've already fought a case. I've already won. I've already showed I was a model citizen. I've already, people say like, and before during the election, it was like, he's only taking the criminals. Yeah, how's that looking right now? That he's only taking the criminals. Somebody self-deported that received the Purple Heart because he was given the order of deportation, and before it got that bad, he just self-deported. Served our country that now couldn't even give him the decency to stay. He might have been a criminal, though. He might have been a criminal. Maybe that's why it happened, right? Received the Purple Heart, but he was a criminal. It's like, or like, so, and I know, and that's the hard part too. It's like the media, I know that the media is meant to spread awareness, but they cannot instill fear in us if the things that are happening are not fearful. That's just the truth. I have the privilege of that. If I'm approached, I'll easily tell you to like, just go on with your day. Find better things to do because that ain't with me, But being told like, oh, he's only going to get the criminals. That's insane. I'm speaking from personal experience. My dad never robbed nobody. My dad never hurt nobody. My dad always paid his taxes. My dad never even got put on child support. And I've been pretty open with my dad on social media, and a lot of people say that they love him. And while that's been a blessing, but it's like the reality of who my dad is, hardworking, does things by the book. He's not perfect, but he has, what I mean by not being perfect, I mean like in the aspect of when you're raised with certain, when you're raised a certain way in a third world country, and then you come here and you try to go ahead and, have your own parenting, I think in certain ways he would be like very honest with the way he would discipline me, and like he would just be very like flat out, like just straight up honest, that maybe some people just wouldn't be that upfront with their kids now, but it served me purpose and it didn't allow me to ever victimize myself. And that's what I mean by not being perfect. But as far as being a model citizen, that's been my dad. So, and that's the reality for a lot of other first generation Americans' parents, whether it's been your mom that has been a model citizen, whether it's you that's listening right now that came here when you were 3 years old, 8 years old, and you've done everything the right way. Because let's be honest, I can get like 3 DUIs. I'm still going to be here. Y'all ain't taking me nowhere. But they get one strike and that's it. And it's unfortunate that we have so many opportunities here. And luckily for me, I've made the most out of it. I really have, because I came to recognize the reality of my loved ones, like growing up. Like how I said, there's no retirement, there's no this, there's no that, like there's no PTO, there's no sick days. I got to realize that at such a young age. And it's so sad to see that while that chapter for me has closed, this is now the reality for a lot of people. And it's just so disheartening to see how much it's affecting my community and how it really reveals how lost humanity is. Because like I said, it's much easier to say, well, they have to obtain this law. So when it comes to a law that pertains to immigrants or citizenship status or just the overall right way to proceed with obtaining, legal status here in the US, people are so quick to uphold the law. But y'all don't uphold drinking and driving. But y'all don't uphold, not getting a speeding ticket either way, there's no greater or lesser crime. If it's a law, it's a law. We should all abide by it. But when it's convenient, people want to uphold it. And there's always a but. And I think that a lot of times that but comes from people who are not only privileged, but it's easier to say, well, that's legal, like, or that's illegal to do, or they should have done things the legal way, because it's a lot easier to say that than to just flat out say, I'm racist or I'm a self-hating Mexican American. That's just the truth, or whatever ethnicity that you have. But I think that people don't realize, and if you live in that privilege, people don't realize the sacrifices that so many people made to be able to offer their family a better life. Because everyone that has made that sacrifice to come to America has wanted to live the American dream. And I feel like that's being stripped away from so many people in my community. And it's really just becoming a nightmare at this point, because nothing that they can do is good enough to be a model citizen or do things the right way. They can pay taxes and they can receive an I-10. If for those of you guys who do not know, an I-10 is a number that's given to you for you to be able to show, proof of paying your taxes. But it's kind of like their temporary Social Security. Like it's essentially, if I can relate it to anything, it's kind of like a temporary Social Security. And that's how they're able to buy a car or buy a house or be able to just purchase overall like certain things. But yet you can't get the benefits of a retirement. You can't get the benefits of health insurance. For a long time, my dad was paying out of pocket. And it's so sad too, because it's like, on the other end, there's so many people that are from here and that are citizens, and they have not been a model citizen at all. Quite frankly, they've done nothing with their lives. And I think that goes back to a lot of times the visual or the example that people give, that on one corner, there can be a Latino man selling flowers, and on the next, there's a crackhead asking for money. And it's like, that just goes to show the difference. When there's struggle and there's that desperation and that need, it shows how they're still trying to do things the rightest way that they can. They're still asking for work. They're still trying to make ends meet in the most morally correct way, without stealing, without just doing things that are just flat out wrong. And so that's where I don't think people can really justify what's going on right now. Granted, if there's certain, laws in place to be able to give them due processing, to be able to fight their deportation case and be able to show hey, I've been a model citizen, or hey, I've done the requirements. I tried to apply the legal way. This is what got done. I was brought here as a child. I didn't break the rule. I was a child. I just was crossed over. I didn't know. And if there was that proper, due process, then all right, at least you have a fighting chance. But it's starting to feel like you don't even have that. And as a first generation American, as the daughter of, an immigrant that, migrated here for a better life, it's just overall disheartening to see. And as a business owner, it's so scary because I'm hearing about this all the time. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like almost as though this system, right? Not to get too deep, but I feel like almost like this system is set up for failure, right? Because it's like, you get a job out of necessity. Granted, not everybody has the privilege or the stability to go to school. So what happens is you start to get a job, you're getting paid minimum wage. The cost of living is not enough for you to be able to spare money in between groceries, a car payment, overall just transportation, right? Like insurance, phone bills. The cost of living overall, it leaves you with very little room to make ends meet. So then we go to school, right? Because that's what was taught to us to be able to be secure. So you go to school and then you get put in debt, whether it's 100,000, 300,000, and then you're making money to pay that back. So then what happens? people like me, we go off and we start a business in hopes to be able to just overall provide, have a better life, right? And even that comes with cost of product, cost of rent, cost of, the utilities, just cost of everything, right? And then I'm at this point where the world around me is crumbling and I'm supposed to just be ignorant to it, to the fact that, like, let's be real, who wants to come get a wax when they're worried about their dad being deported, or when they're worried about the safety of their parents, or when they're worried about, dang, I have to hold on to every dollar I might have right now because I don't know when I can possibly get stopped and get sent back, or just the constant living in fear. And it's like, what was I supposed to do? Well, like, what was I really supposed to do? So that's how it's affecting me in the aspect of not only a human being, right, first and foremost, but the daughter of an immigrant, first generation American, and lastly, as a business owner. I'm not speaking on this topic because it's affecting my business. I'm speaking on this topic because it's morally correct and because I'm sick and tired of seeing communities be dehumanized and people living in fear. That's why I'm speaking on this topic. But this is the reality for a lot of people and a lot of businesses as well. I have she's an old client of mine. However, it's someone that I've been following on social media, and they have they sell fruit, right? But I don't know the correct wording, but they pretty much sell it like in bulk. Like they sell it to restaurants, and they work in the district of what would it be called? Like, how there's like, okay, like, again, I don't know the proper term for it, but how there's like the flower district where people can buy like wholesale. Okay, there is like I don't know if it's like the food district. Yeah. And pretty much they sell. And right there, let's be honest, when it comes to the jobs, the agricultural jobs, who is it mainly based off of? It's mainly based off of the Hispanic and Latino community, right? And she's showing posts of it being absolutely dead at peak hours. And she's like, we're still trying to keep afloat the best way that we can. But I just wanted to be able to show you guys the reality of how it's affecting our community. And this isn't just like, this is going past what you see on social media. This isn't just on social media now. This is happening in real life. This is affecting families in real life. And before people sit there and say, well, you should have done things the right way, I may not know the exact right way things should have been done, but I know that it's not like this. And I know that for those who have tried to do things the right way, they make it almost impossible for them to be able to do it because they're working minimum wage jobs. They're trying to still pay their taxes. It's like, our president don't want you here, but Uncle Sam still need a cut. And it's like, it really just doesn't make any sense. And I fear for my community so much. And yes, I could live in privilege and I could live in ignorance and I could live in like, just, I don't have that worry. Who does that? Like, if you're okay with that, you gotta be selfish. Like you gotta, and not selfish in a good way. And you know what? What's the most frustrating part about all of it is that growing up, there was a lot of times where I would vent about like the responsibility that I carried over my family as being the only daughter, as being a daughter that was raised by an immigrant, as a daughter who was just on the front lines of all the responsibilities of her household and things like that, right? And I would express these frustrations, and people that have no insight on those struggles of being first generation American would be like, dude, don't worry about your dad. He should be taking care of you. It's like, I don't have that privilege. My dad made a sacrifice to get here. And now that I have the blessing and the opportunity of being a citizen and doing something with my life, and in all reality, having way more opportunities than someone who is undocumented, now it's my turn to repay that favor. And it's my turn to bring that sacrifice to a full circle and say, now I got it. But the reality of it is that it's a lot to handle. It's not easy. And I'm not complaining, but I will stay obedient, and I will state that I don't like what's going on. And I will state that what's going on is hard. And I will state that what's going on is affecting me. It's affecting my community. It's affecting everything around me. But I'm going to continue to be obedient because I know that that's how God blesses me. But I also know that not a lot of people have these opportunities or these blessings of where social media gave my business a chance to grow on social media. And that guaranteed me the exposure to have clients come in. And a lot of people don't have that. And one thing that I would like to say is that while I recognize that my business is a huge blessing, especially during the times that we're living right now, it's a huge responsibility. And I don't think people can really grasp how much of a responsibility of it is. And they only tend to, and I say that for the people who are ignorant to think, well, she makes $100 an hour, so she should be good. And she has a certain amount of followers on TikTok, so she stays fully booked. And that's not the reality. I've still had to go and chase and work for my business and promote and advertise myself and make myself available because I don't know how many clients I'll get that next week. That's the reality of entrepreneurship, that not every week is guaranteed. So while I have my blessing of a business during these times, it's also a huge responsibility. And the fact that with everything going on around me, still having to pull forward, it's not about the money. It's about the livelihood of myself and my family. Because in case anything happens, given the fact that I am the one in position to take care of my family, if anything were to happen, or to be able to sit there and afford $300 worth of groceries, I don't even know how I would be doing it if I had a minimum wage job right now. I don't even know how I would be doing it. The other day, I went to the grocery store. And again, not because my dad can't go, but I did it out of just pure fear that I don't want him to go to the local Northgate, get targeted, and now my responsibility has doubled, if not tripled. And mentioning you, I already feel like the water's to my nose. And to now add that, it's going to be even harder. So I get him groceries, and I'm like, let me just get him a little something, you know? I'm looking at my cart and I recognize this is already $100 worth of groceries, and it looks like nothing. So then I go back and I grab some more, and I'm like, all right, girl, budget went from, $150 to $200. That's all you can, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but due to the fear that we're all living in, and even though my dad could easily, pull out his citizenship to identify that he's from here, it feels like he almost doesn't even have the chance to do that. So to avoid that, I go back and I grab more. And next thing you know, I'm checking out and it's $315 for groceries for one person. But Trump was going to make our eggs cheap, right? Like, you guys focus on the wrong things. Like what? Like, it's just like, honestly, it's like, this is a reality for most people. And if I didn't have my business, I don't even know how I would be doing it right now. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm drained. I'm drained of every day taking on more and more and more because I don't know what the next week is going to look like. And, oh, you should have gone to school. I didn't have that privilege. I didn't have that luxury. I didn't know how I was even going to be able to make ends meet for myself. But I knew that in the future, not only did I have to make it for myself, but I knew I also had to make it for my family. So that's when I feel like now I know that my audience has always related to me and I've been relatable to them. But that's why when I talk about the struggle of wanting to make something out in life, like make something out of myself in this lifetime, was never for luxury. It was always for pure survival, because the things that a lot of people are living with, everything that's going on with the ICE raids, is something that I feared very early on. Because I would hear the stories, and let's be honest, when we're younger, we hear of our parents' stories. Back when I was in Guatemala, and back when I was, in the rancho in Mexico, and back when I was this, and, as a kid, you're so like oblivious. You think like, oh yeah, back when the dinosaurs existed. And it's like, no, that was just a few years before your timing, huh? And we hear these stories, and we hear the stories of like when they had to cross and the things that they were running from in their country. It all just sounds like a movie. But this is our parents' reality, right? So then when I got to a certain age, it started to click. All the repetition that my dad would tell me in my childhood was now my reality. And I knew that I had to do something. And like I said, if I'm being honest, while I'm so grateful for my business, I'm also exhausted because majority of my childhood was sadness. It was pure evil, the things that I would encounter. And then I get out of that, right? Because you're never going to see me where you last left me. I'm always going to progress in life. And that takes a different kind of strength. So then I get to my, what would you call that? My adolescent years, my young adulthood, right? Like 18, 19, 20. And I'm like, okay, I'm legal. Like I'm legal enough to go get a job without a work permit. So I can work full time. And then I'm seeing like, dude, this isn't enough. The light bill alone came out to the amount of my check. And I still have to wait 2 more weeks to get paid. So then like, 21 happens. I was 22 when the pandemic happened. I'm 28 already. Like, yeah. Talk about time flying by fast. So then we get out of the pandemic. I try to start up a business. I do that. I turn 24. I start to establish my business. I had to start all over again. I moved to Redlands. I'm turning 25. My brother passes away. 26. And it's like, what I'm trying to make out here is that like the years have been going by so fast. And that's the reality for a lot of people that are in place to take responsibility over their family because they understand the reality and the struggles that come with being from a family that's undocumented. And so then we take that on and then we're still trying to live life for ourselves. Talk about draining. Talk about being tired. And I'm not going to give up. It's not in me to give up. And I know God did not bring me this far to just leave me. But it's only consuming me because it's consuming everything around me. And it's consuming my reality. And I didn't grow up in privilege. I'm thankful that I grew up in struggle to get me somewhere. But this is not about my story. This is about me being able to relate to the reality of what my community and the first generation American children are living. And everything that comes with it, the stress and how some things are so surface level. It's like, well, you have a business, you're so blessed. That comes with so much sacrifice. I sacrificed myself for my business. I sacrificed myself to get here for my business. And even the business that I currently have is not guaranteed. Imagine living in that fear alone. And then with everything else going on, my business gets me physically tired. Everything going on around me with immigration, the world that my friends, my clients, my loved ones are living. It's so sad to see. It's so disheartening. It has dehumanized my community. It's put fear into everybody. And people will give, it's always the but, right? It's always like, but I don't agree with people setting cars on fire. I'll be the first to tell you guys, I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with people not being able to tell the difference between LAPD, CHP, sheriffs, and ICE agents. But I also don't agree with not even proper identification. 1 minute it's a sheriff's vest. The next minute it's ICE. And I mean, granted, if you're a police officer, then, you know, your uniform is different. But what I'm trying to say is that there's no proper way to identify yourself as as an ICE agent. So then people are living in not only fear in itself causes people to fight or flight, and then add confusion to that fear. And I'm not justifying the actions of people who have set cars on fire, set bricks, or, you know, thrown bricks to officers, and, you know, but it's just, I don't feel like two wrongs are going to make a right. But I also, like, what is expected when people are living in fear and confusion? Definitely not that. I'm not justifying the actions of, you know, non-peaceful protesters. But it's like, when people's voices want to be heard, it's like they're going to great lengths to show that. But it's also a repercussion of, like, they don't know what to believe. They don't know if there's any humanity on the other end of law enforcement right now. And granted, I have loved ones in law enforcement. I have friends in law enforcement, and I know they're good people. But with the way that specifically, I will say, ICE agents are going about things, and even down to that, like, instilling more fear into our community by wearing these, like, masks, right? Where it only shows their eyes. A lot of people say it's for the safety of these federal agents. And to be honest, I don't think it's for that. If I'm being honest with you, I think it's because you're not doing something that you're proud of. And if you're proud of what you're doing as an ICE agent, to a certain extent, you have to be self-hating, just a little bit. Because when we were young, we were taught, do something you love when you grow up. Do something when you love when you grow up. And if you feel content with knowing that you're tearing families apart and that you're giving in to the agenda of our administration that is dehumanizing people in general, that's why you're wearing the mask. Because you're a coward. Because you're a coward, and you know that if you have the nopal en la frente and people look at you and say, why are you on the other side of what's so wrong with what's going on in our world today, then it really makes you question, like, if you're okay with that, and someone comes up to you and ends up telling you, and if you're not okay with it, and that's why you're wearing the mask, and you get approached and someone tells you all your truths of what you're doing, it's almost like you're negligent to the facts of the problem that you're giving into. Why would you be okay with going up to people, unidentifying yourself, or not identifying yourself, going up to people and just grabbing them, and when they run out of fear, because they could be a citizen, but they don't know how to properly articulate themselves, you take them to the ground, and then it's make America great again. It baffles me what's going on. It really baffles me how much people lack humanity. So that's all the advice that I have to give you guys. I wanted to check in with you guys, show my love. Just please know that, like, I'm genuinely praying for the world that we live in. I'm praying for the community. I'm praying for the livelihood of so many people, because I get money is not everything, but let's be real. Our parents, or, you know, those who are undocumented still have to work. So I do pray for their livelihood. I try to be a positive impact in people's day. Please bear with me, because it's also affecting me too, but I'm trying my best to put my best foot forward. I'm not an example, or I'm not on a pedestal. I grew this platform with the intent to spread a message. And with that, it came to grow, but I'm not perfect either. This definitely has gotten to me as well. But all I can do is try to put one foot in front of the other and pour into my cup, because it's honestly starting to feel like I can't be present for others unless I'm present for myself first, because that's all that I can change. I don't have life-changing money to go and give out to the community and this and that. And I don't have that. I wish I did, but I don't. And so all I can do is just try to make a positive impact where I can, and focus on the things that I can control, and love and take care of my people while still spreading honestly, the bit of love that I have left to be able to give to those that I encounter, whether it's through my business, at the store, holding the door open for somebody. I feel like those little acts, especially in these times, makes all the difference, because it shows that this world still has a little bit of humanity, and there's still people with hearts. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are okay. Stay safe, know your rights, and if you feel like you are helpless, start with you first. Try to do something that allow you to provide for those that you love, and with that comes a little bit of ease on them as well. Whether it's going to get groceries for them, going to fill up the car with gas late at night, taking the extra $50-$60 that you can to fill up the gas tank for them that they might not have, or it's harder for them to earn. Little encounters like that make the world of a difference with the world that we're currently living in. So I hope I didn't talk too much. I know that words are power, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure that you guys subscribe. Make sure that you guys follow us on Instagram, Toda Vida Podcast, Self-Care by Ash. If you guys would love to come get a service by me, I'm more than happy to service you guys. Thank you guys so much. This pours back into me, my family, my community, and just overall, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe, stay blessed, show some humanity, and I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and bearing with me. Bye.